Hey there, it's Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR. Before we get into the next episode, I wanted to ask that you subscribe to the show. It'll help us get even more unique and interesting guests on the podcast and in turn continue to educate management teams and the growing ecosystem that creates value for fast-growing private and public companies. And while you're at it, head over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. Very much appreciated.
It's medically tailored, so we follow the American Heart Association recommendations on food. We follow the American Diabetes Association on food. We're so proud of this company that actually now we got a reimbursement code for Medicare, Medicaid, and a lot of insurances are signing us to pay for it for their patients.
With today's science-based advancements in nutrition geared towards health and longevity, the old adage that food is medicine has never been more relevant.
We just crossed, in 4 months, over 43 insurances who signed us across the US to start paying for their patients to consume nutrition for longevity food. So it's becoming medical grade food today, and we're very proud of it.
Being a public company can be hard. Small missteps can have outsized consequences. I'm Tom Ryan, founder and CEO of ICR, and over the last 20 years, we've helped thousands of companies understand and navigate the stock market and the media. We'll demystify these and other increasingly complex stakeholder groups so you can focus on what you do best, building your company and unlocking your true potential. This is Welcome to the Arena. We live in an era with the most advanced medical technologies the world has ever seen. But are we healthier for it? According to the CDC, 6 in 10 adults in the U.S. are living with at least one chronic disease. And in the wake of the pandemic, those numbers have only increased. Modern healthcare systems treat the illness after the fact. But what if healthcare began long before we got sick? And what if the best preventative medicine started with something as simple as the food we eat? My guest today says it does. Dr. Joseph Antoun, MD, PhD, is the CEO and chairman of L-Nutra, a unique nutri-tech company that's applying cutting-edge science to nutrition with the goal of helping people live longer, healthier lives through food. Before joining L-Nutra, Dr. Antoun was the CEO of Health Systems Reform, the co-director of the Center for Health Policy at the University of Chicago, and the co-editor-in-chief of the Journal of Health Systems and Reform, among other accomplishments. He also served as chairman of the board for the Global Healthspan Policy Institute and was a member of the Forbes Business Development Council. I spoke with Dr. Antoun about the science behind L-Nutra's fasting mimicking technology, what they see as their 3 areas of growth, and how their programs and products stand out in a crowded market. Let's enter the arena with Dr. Joseph Antoun.
L-Nutra, L stands for longevity, dash meaning through nutrition. So we focus on researching what humans should eat if they're healthy to stay healthy longer, which is trying to help them promote what we call their health span, staying healthy long. And if they have a health condition, we're actually probably the first company to use high-end cutting-edge science to see if you have one of the health conditions, how can we produce special food formulations to help you go through your condition, better manage it, or in some cases induce remission and regression from the chronic condition. They call us the first nutri-tech of the word, applying biotech level of science on nutrition to bring food for longevity and food as medicine. The science started 25 years ago at University of Southern California. There's a pioneer researcher there by the name of Walter Longo, and he started looking at what humans should eat to live a healthy, long life. And the research is founded on 2 premises, if you want. Food is the only product we consume every day since the day we're born to the day we die, so it must carry the biggest message of longevity and or shortevity, if you want. It could become a poison. And number 2 is that aging and food, this was the corner of, if you want, the junction of what University of Southern California and Walter Longo were studying is, well, actually, 90% of us would die of one of what we call age-related diseases. Cancer, cardiovascular, diabetes. And Alzheimer's, they don't start at age 20 or age 17. They most of them come at later stage in life. So can we research nutrition to delay aging or slow down aging? Because if you slow down aging, then you're slowing down the onset of one of the four killers. And so that juncture of longevity, aging, and nutrition is what is behind our research. And some 13 years ago, when the research started showing promised outcomes in mice, University of Southern California and Walter Longo decided to found L-Nutra, again, some 13, 14 years ago, in order to take all these discoveries in nutrition, bring them to market, and help people around the world to consume the food.
And how did that opportunity come to you?
So I'm coming from the other side of the river, if you want. I started as a physician, my career as a physician. And then I wanted to be a cardiologist, and doing my rotations in cardiology, I figured out two things that were striking a little bit to me. Number one is that I always meet people after they're sick. So I was practicing sick care, not health care. And number two, I was giving them 4 or 5 pills, one for blood pressure, one for blood sugar, one for cholesterol, etc. And they had to take these pills for the rest of their life. But we're looking at them is a lot of the reasons why they had the blood sugar or the blood pressure was either it's a lifestyle reason. They either were gaining weight, they're getting older, they're stressed, and all the pillars of longevity and lifestyle medicine. And I figured out that we could do better in medicine. We have to bring lifestyle medicine and prevention to medicine. So I left and I studied health policy and public health, did Harvard and Hopkins, and my goal was to reform the healthcare system to become a preventive one. Now, I hit a roadblock there because prevention is a set of recommendations and services that people either do or not, and they know about them. So telling people for the 100th time you should eat healthy, they know that. And telling people you should exercise, they know that. And telling people that you should stress less, they know that. But the practice of life gets you stress every day, gets you great food in front of you in the form of French fries and a burger every day. And tells you sit on a couch, watch the game, and order Uber Eats every day. So in order to win, you got to come up with a product, not just a service or a preaching or a product that can help people live a healthy, long life. And I started looking for that. I went to the biotech industry to learn how to discover and launch products because I didn't have that expertise, the business of healthcare, if you want. And then from there, I started my global search for what could be a product for prevention. Came about knowing aging, because we don't think about aging in medicine, right? We think every disease has a different route, has a different genetics, has a different... But if they were independent, you should get the first Alzheimer's diagnosis at age 20. You never get that, even if you have the ApoE gene. So I started learning that it's literally lifestyle medicine and aging are the biggest determinant. Of course, there's genetic predisposition and other environmental factor, but it's mainly lifestyle and nutrition at the core of it, plus aging that lead to the onset of one of the 4 or 5 diseases that I mentioned that are killing 90% of us. So I started looking into nutrition, and the CEO of the Buck Institute for Research on Aging up in San Francisco introduced me to Walter Longo, and just fell in love with this guy who, first of all, donates everything he does to the Create Cures Foundation. He set up L-Nutra as a company to bring the best nutrition to people to live a healthy, long life. And he was researching how food could become medicine to impact one of these 4 big diseases. Fell in love, and a combination of my MD, PhD to build trust in people consuming our nutrition, and a combination of learning the business of healthcare from the biotech took me in as a CEO back in 2016 and launched the first product in the same year that is called ProLon. A lot of people know ProLon, but we launched it then, and it has been a great career till today.
The principle behind L-Nutra, I think, is so fascinating. When you talk about fasting with food and the link to longevity, you can't go further with the conversation until you kind of explain the power of fasting, the link to longevity, what happens in your body when you're fasting, and how what you do is different than just don't eat and just drink water.
One of the biggest topic that Professor Walter Longo and his labs, and for those who want to learn more, they can read The Longevity Diet. It's a book by him that summarizes everything we're going to talk about today. But one of his biggest discovery was the impact of fasting on the body. Now, a lot of us practice intermittent fasting today, but intermittent fasting or skipping food for 16 hours or 14 or 18 is a practice that helps you lose weight and therefore has a lot of downstream benefits. What Dr. Longo was studying was not intermittent fasting as much as prolonged fasting, meaning if you go a few hours without food on intermittent fasting, you still have enough fat to compensate, and this is why you lose fat, and you still have other reserves in the liver, glycogen in the muscle, so you have kind of reserves to compensate for that. His interest was, what if you go on a day or 2 days or 3 days or 4 days or 5 days of fasting? What happens? What happens when reserves are depleted? What is the next line of defense in the body? And it turns out that the next line of defense in the body is the body tells the cells, hey, I cannot feed you now from the outside. Look for intracellular sources of calories. You got to fix yourself. You got to eat the debris, the organelles, and try to get at your best in order to survive. And that process is called autophagy or self-eat. And it happens, a lot of people think it happens with intermittent fasting after 16 hours. Well, big news, it does not happen then. You got to go, for most people, at least a day or two. And for many, it's 2 or 3 days to get into autophagy. Because we do have fat, we do have glycogen to compensate for the first day or two gap. So once you get to that process, now you're engaging the cells into the cells trying to fix themselves. And this is where biologically now you're talking about potentially slowing down aging / or reversing it. Now, it's very difficult and sometimes unhealthy and risky for many to stay 2, 3, 4, 5 days on a water fast. And this is why actually the NIH, the National Institute of Aging, under the National Institute of Health, one of the most credible, if not the most credible funder of science in the US, decided to fund the creation of the fasting mimicking diet. So basically, the NIH is telling Professor Longo, who's an expert in nutrition, can you create a formulation that nourishes the body, but keeps the cells in a fasting mode? So the art was, can we feed you a very specific formulation that does not spike the hormones of food? So when you eat, insulin spikes as a response to carbs, and insulin-like growth factor, we call it IGF, spikes as a response to protein. Can you nourish that body a formulation that does not spike insulin and IGF, because it's how the body recognizes the food? On top of that, by the time the food gets into the cells, it does not over-trigger the nutrient sensing pathways, meaning the cells are sensing the food, but keep them in a starvation mode. I always give an example that could simplify it. So say you're the CEO of a company and you need $2 million per month to operate. It's like the body needing, say, 2,000 calories. Let's say it's a big individual with high metabolic rate. So one way to fast is to give you $0 instead of giving you 2 million. That puts you in a fasting state very fast. But it's also detrimental somehow. You need to pay your employees, you need to order supplies for next month, etc. A safer way of doing this, if I come and say, you know what, I'm going to give you $800,000 instead of 2 million. And I'm going to earmark these $800,000 to important functions of the company. So you can see how the CEO still has the pressure of deficit of $1.2 million. So he's going to still go and fix the company. He's going to go restructure, and he's going to work on improving the cost effectiveness of running the business. So you get that autophagy benefit while he's getting enough money to pay the essentials to survive the business. So in some cases, you can see how this is a better way to actually put a fasting pressure on the body. And this is how the fasting mimicking nutrition was born. Millions of dollars and years of research to get to that formulation that is now patented and secretive, but you eat it over 5 days and your body thinks you're fasting.
I think it's such a cool thing, fasting with food, but that flagship product that you have, ProLon, if I'm a customer, doctor, how does it exactly work? And why is it 5 days versus 3 days versus 7 days? What's the science behind that?
So ProLon, PROLON, is the first ever fasting mimicking diet to be launched. And it's a 5 days food that you receive at home. So you go online, you order it, or you go through your doctor. We have over 14,000 healthcare practitioners registered with us to actually recommend the product. And it gets shipped to your house. You get a box, you open it, and you have 5 days of food in it. And every day tells you what to eat, bars for breakfast, and then soups and olives and drinks. And so you get your full breakfast, lunch, and dinner. First day is 1,100 calories. The other days are 800 calories. And basically, it's a 5-day nutrition that puts your body into that, what we talked about, losing the weight because you're fasting, at the same time supporting a cellular rejuvenation for healthy aging. Why it's 5 days? If you go shorter, say 2 or 3 days, not everyone would experience autophagy. If you're a person with a slow metabolic rate and you have a high reserves in your body, you're not going to get into autophagy right away, say after a day or two. So by doing 5 days, you're guaranteeing that most people are going through this full cycle of losing fat. And by the way, you protect your muscle because fasting acts by stress, not just by a calorie deficit. So the muscle is getting protected and rejuvenated. And at the same time, you're getting autophagy, and we make sure that most people get through the benefits. If you go longer, now you're getting a little bit closer to the bankruptcy, right? So we go back to the company example, and if you keep that CEO with no money for long enough, ultimately the company would go through bankruptcy. So you want to induce the stress, you want them to fix, and then you want to give them back the money. And that's exactly how the fasting mimicking diet work is a perfectly timed 5 days to work for most at different levels, and then give you many of the benefits of fasting.
I think we all know that starting a new diet or meal plan is easy. Finishing it is the tough part. What's striking about ProLon is how many people finish the 5-day fast.
I think to date we've crossed 1 million box sold, which is almost like 350,000 different people doing it. And based on our survey, we're showing 90 to 91% of people can complete it. And that's the entire goal, actually, right, is to make fasting compliant. This is why the fasting mimicking diet is you're eating food. That's the beauty of it. And like you said, it's probably not a diet. It's not an everyday change of your life. It's just 5 days. So it's short enough to be completed, long enough to induce a change. That's the balance. And by the way, we recommend people to do it on average 3 times a year. So all we were asking is give us 15 days of your entire 365 days, and you're going to get amazing, benefits.
So you mentioned, Doctor, 3 times a year. Is this something you could do once a month, or is it something where you should only do it 3 or 4 times a year?
We've tested 3, we've tested 4, and we've tested once every month. And basically, the answer is it depends. If you're healthy otherwise, you're mid-age, you don't need to lose a lot of weight, and you're just doing it for autophagy or cellular benefits, then you can do it 3 times a year only. If you're carrying some overweight that you want to get rid of, or if you're concerned about certain health conditions that can happen, and or you want to do a deeper metabolic rejuvenation, then you can do it more frequently. We're about to launch a program where you have a nutritionist and you have the fasting mimicking nutrition, and you can do it once every month for 6 cycles and then once every 3 months to maintain. And that could be for metabolic remission. So if potentially you're pre-diabetic or diabetic, that can help you. We just got the results of the trials that program, that fasting mimicking nutrition program, can support you with remission and regression.
That's exciting. The second product is the fast bar, and like water, it doesn't trigger a spike in blood sugar. And I think the other part of that is whether you have a pre-existing condition or not, this is just something that's healthy to eat, even if you're not on any kind of regimen, correct?
The fast bar is for intermittent fasters. If you don't want to do a prolonged fasting, we believe that the right fast that you should do is actually 12 hours. 12 hours follows, day and night circadian rhythm. We call it circadian fasting. It's the balance of life. We should not snack late at night. You finish your last meal at 7, 8 p.m., and then you eat in the morning. That gives you 12 hours. Now, some people extend the 12 hours fast to 16 hours because they want to accentuate a little bit their weight loss. And we created the fast bar because we have the formulation to help you be nourished while staying in a fasting mode. And we do that because in the morning is when your brain is the most active. And this is why you lose the weight. There's demand for energy is when you walk, you go to the gym or you go to work and you're walking. So there's a demand on the heart, on the brain, on other essential organs. And we say, do the fast bar, at least you're nourishing your essential organs while you keep your body in a fasting mode. And we published an article in Nutrients, one of the top nutrition journals, showing that if you do water in the morning or the fast bar, you have the same blood sugar and you have the same ketones in the blood. So this is why we were able to file a patent on the fast bar to be the only bar that can mimic fasting.
And then the third product that you're involved with is the longevity meal plan, which is a subscription plan where food is delivered to your door. Maybe you can explain that.
Yeah, so a lot of our consumers doing the 5-day ProLon, they say it inspired me. There are 4 benefits to ProLon, changing your relationship with food, you lose the weight, you have a healthy aging benefits and cellular rejuvenation, and you have a lot of emotional benefits with ProLon, mental clarity, the brain fog, and all of that. And they feel their life has just got transformed in 5 days, and they want to continue on a healthy pathway. And they don't want to go back right away to the burgers and the pizzas and the pastas, and they're like, can you develop a food for us for every day in order to stay healthy long? And we developed this company called Nutrition for Longevity, the meal kit company that we have. And it gathers 3 concepts. Clean food, really, really clean ingredients, and we do partially grow our own food in our farms. Number 2, it's a longevity formulation. So Professor Walter Longo studying people, the centenarians who live 100 years and beyond, we got inspired by that formulation that he finds to be common to people who live long. And number 3, it's medically tailored. So we follow the American Heart Association recommendation on food. We follow the American Diabetes Association on food. So it's medically tailored. And we're so proud of this company that actually now we got a reimbursement code for Medicare, Medicaid, and a lot of insurances are signing us to pay for it for their patients. We just crossed in 4 months over 43 insurances who signed us across the US to start paying for their patients to consume nutrition for longevity food. So it's becoming medical grade food today, and we're very proud of it.
The world is filled with meal plans and bars and all this stuff. This is totally different and really backed by intellectual property and science. What is the competitive landscape like? Because there's a lot of noise out there, and you have to break through the noise to have people really hear this story, because it's amazing.
Our biggest weapon is probably an ethical approach to nutrition rather than just a business approach to nutrition. And number 2, putting science behind it. I mean, like you said, you can walk the aisles and see 100 bar in any of the groceries. None of them will show you a randomized clinical trial to prove what they have. There are so many diets and nutrition programs there. Very few of them will show you articles and randomized clinical trials. I think we've just crossed 18 human trials on the fasting mimicking diet. So our real advantages is the ethical scientific approach to nutrition. And this is why we have that cult, that following, that very, very loyal and very kind of consistent on consuming our product. And I'm so proud to say that 50% of every sale we have comes from a friend and family. See, that doesn't even exist. So they do the product, especially ProLon, they feel a big change in their body in 5 days, and they're telling their friends and family, or their friends and family saying, what happened to you? And they're telling the story. So this is what really separates us from the herd. And I hope more people listening to us today will try the products and see for themselves.
What's the growth strategy from here? I know you partnered with Brentwood Associates, which is really a world-class private equity group that helps companies kind of grow and scale. And this is such an important company to make sure gets out there and reaches more consumers. How do you look at growth over the next 5 years to 10 years? What areas are you focused on?
Well, I mean, we have 3 areas of growth. Number 1 is, I still believe we're one of the best kept secrets, because what we just talked about today, very few people know about it. We believe less than 1.5% of society have heard about a fasting mimicking diet. So how can we increase mass awareness and tell more people the story, and whether through affiliates or whether through social influencers or whether through TV, all these channels that we're exploring to take this knowledge of fasting with food to everyone. The second is a pipeline growth. We keep developing and innovating new products. We just launched the ProLon Reset, which is a 1-day fasting mimicking diet. And for those who, in between doing the ProLons and 3 times a year, they still want to balance and maintain. and they want to do 1 day of fast. So we just launched a reset fasting mimicking diet, and we have other products in the pipeline, such as supplements to help people with the micronutrients as well. So it's basically capitalizing on this ethical approach and scientific approach to whatever we produce for people that trust us. And number 3 is we're expanding into the doctor's channel and bringing food as medicine to the clinics. We did talk about the nutrition for longevity, which is now reimbursed by many insurances. We do have fasting mimicking nutrition as well for health conditions. We're going to launch a diabetes remission and regression program, hopefully end of this year, max Q1 of next year, which will help patients with diabetes potentially regress from their health condition by doing multiple cycles of the fasting mimicking nutrition.
Today's market is saturated with weight loss products and diet plans. Most either don't work or don't last. But the promise of better health and a slimmer waistline will always inspire consumer demand. Backed by science and proprietary technology, L-Nutra seems well positioned to take advantage of this absolutely huge secular health trend, while advancing their mission to cure disease, optimize health, and extend human life. At Welcome to the Arena, we're working really hard to bring you exciting guests and great content. If you found this episode insightful, subscribe to the show on your podcast app and leave us a 5-star rating. The more the show grows, the more interesting voices we can have on the podcast, and in turn, that should demystify a lot of the stakeholders around public companies and soon-to-be public companies. Thanks for listening. Thanks again to Dr. Antoun for joining us today. He and his team at L-Nutra are not only building a strong business, they're building a healthier world. Surely a special and important company to keep track of. This is Tom Ryan, and we'll see you next time back in the arena.
References to specific stocks are not intended to be recommendations for specific trading behavior. Comments presented on this podcast are intended for informational and educational purposes only, and do not represent opinions or recommendations on whether to buy, sell, or hold shares of a particular stock. All investors are advised to conduct their own independent research into individual stocks before making a trading decision. In addition, investors are advised that past stock performance is no guarantee of future price performance.